Hey everyone, welcome to the Realennials. I'm Ruby.
I'm Pat.
And we are joined today by Christina Browne, owner, founder of District 88. Christina, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thanks for having me.
It's a nice early morning. At least it's beautiful outside.
It is.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Christina, what is District 88? Actually, no, we're going to get into that a little bit later. Let's start before that.
Okay.
So where did you grow up?
Everywhere in Kansas City. I was born in Kansas City, Kansas, and then we later moved to Missouri. So I lived in Raytown. Then we moved into like Brookside and Waldo. So that's kind of where I spent most of my childhood until I graduated high school.
What were you into growing up? Like, were you always, because you work in PR right now, so were you always like that person in high school or middle school being like, I'm gonna help you get your image together? Like,
no, you know what, crazy enough, I always wanted to be in front of the camera, not behind. So I thought I was gonna be like Lala on TRL, or like Free from 106 in Park. Yes, right. So I was like, I'm gonna count down all the songs, and like I wanted to be that person. So it was not until after high school I even knew what PR was, to be like, oh, well, let's see if I'm good at that.
So after high school, like when you were in high school, did you go to college?
Yeah.
You went to college? Where'd you go to college at?
After I graduated, I went to Alabama State, which is in Montgomery, Alabama. And then I came back and finished my degree at Avila.
Nice.
But in high school, I was on Generation Rap, which is a radio talk show on KPRS.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I done that. And then, I don't know, I was always just involved with stuff. I was really busy. So when you ask me like what was I into, I done
like everything.
Yeah, I was in band, so I played the flute.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I was like one of the band girls. But then I was really active in church, so I was always traveling. And then the radio stuff, we always had community events, and so I've kind of just always been everywhere.
That's a little bit kind of how we were, because we went to high school together. We grew up in the same city for a long time, and then Pat moved, but we were both in band too. So we every time we talked to somebody, we're like, did you march?
Yeah. Well, so not in high school, because it was like a performing arts school, so it's like concert band. But then that's why I went to Alabama State, because they had the marching band, which I later ended up quitting because I didn't like it, and I still regret it to this day.
Marching band, dude. I didn't like marching band.
I didn't even finish boot camp.
Oh man,
it was nothing like Drumline. Let me say that. If you see the movie Drumline, it was like 10 times worse. I was like, this is not what Nick Cannon set me up for.
I wonder what the increase of marching band like attendance was after that movie. Everybody's like, dude, I'm so going into this.
Well, you know what? I had wanted to be in a marching band and at a HBCU since I probably was like 9 or 10 years old. And so I would like see them on TV or read about it. My aunt had flew me to Atlanta for like Battle of the Bands. And I was like, I'm going to do this. Like my little flute or piccolo is ready. Like I can dance, I can play. And I got there and I'm like, what is happening? Like we had to wear army fatigue pants and like the white t-shirt. And it's like all these rules, what you can and can't do. And I was like, yeah, no, y'all can have this.
Yeah,
like we had to. The only thing that was true off of Drumline is that we did have to run the bleachers in the stadium, with our. Yeah, and I think that was like my breaking point. I was like, I'm not doing this again.
That sounds tough.
I mean, your instrument's the one I'd want to run with.
I know, I guess it's little enough, but it was like very intimidating running stairs in a stadium.
Those tuba players are probably like, no, I quit.
No.
I'm out.
I would like, for me, sounds crazy. Like I would never run with my saxophone upstairs. Like maybe I would do it with something similarly sized in weight, but like I wouldn't want to risk tripping and breaking my super expensive
you
instrument.
had to have it. Okay, there was not an option.
What? And that's why you were like.
Yeah, and then it was just like, you see everybody else on the yard walking around having fun doing stuff. It's like parties. We're just getting to college, and you couldn't go to any of it. And so, yeah,
that sounds terrible.
I should have done it though.
That makes me glad I didn't do band in high school or in college.
I actually have a really crazy marching band story. So like I was also in band. I played the clarinet.
Okay.
And I went to a community college for my first years of college, and I played in the band there. And then I transferred to KU. Well, when I was transferring to KU, I was looking at my options, like what should I be into? And I was like, oh, maybe I'll go into band. So I like hit up the band directors at KU, and they were like, yes, please come. We need more clarinets. We need somebody on the marching band. Well, I was like, man, I don't really want to march anymore.
I hated marching band.
And so I declined. Like, they were like, okay, we're ready to give you some money to be on the marching band. And I declined, and I was like, I don't really want to do marching band. I just want to go be in school. Yeah. And this was in 2007. This is when my first year at KU. 2007, came in, I declined the marching band thing. Well, the football team went to the Orange Bowl that year. So I would have been on the marching band going to the Orange Bowl. And then if I had stayed, they had actually offered me that if I had went and marched for football season, if I didn't like it, I could leave and they would give me season tickets to the basketball games. Well, in my ignorance, I was like, okay, I'll be able to get in anyways. I'm a student at KU. Like, I did not realize that it was like a lottery system that you had to get into, like, you had to like wait in line for days to get tickets. And so I declined that. And guess what happened that year? 2008.
They went national championship.
They went to the national championship, and I did not go to one of those games.
Great job, Ruby.
I know, just for declining marching band. I don't know who needs to hear this right now, but maybe you should be marching band.
I'm pretty sure that was
Stay in band.
That was the year Kevin Durant came too and played in Allen Fieldhouse, or maybe that was the year before.
I think that was the year before. No,
but he came and set it off and dropped like 50 points on us.
Well, I'll tell you.
And rolled his ankle and was out like the whole fourth quarter.
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
Kevin Durant?
No,
I don't.
It was his one and only college year at Texas.
Yeah, and then he dipped.
We played him there too. I think he also dropped for. No, I don't think we played them twice.
I don't know. I just regret. I could have been on marching band. I could have been at all those games, literally every one of those games, and I was like, nope, didn't do it.
Yeah, well, I watched Beyonce's Homecoming documentary, and it was like the whole band experience, and I just shook my head the whole time. I'm like, I should call a therapist. I'm like reliving 2006
Christina's
right
like
now.
pulling out her.
Yeah, well, those movies like Drumline and that stuff makes it look so awesome, and it's like it's only awesome because they put in like hundreds of hours of practice, like at 5:30 or 6 in the morning, and it is that boot camp experience.
It is,
and it's like nah.
Well, I remember I tried to get my mom to let me transfer high schools to go to Schlago in Kansas because their marching band was basically like a college marching band.
Yeah, they're dope. And I actually live right up the street from them. I hear them practicing all the time, and I'm like, wow, they're like crazy good for high schoolers.
Well, I went up there, and so I like auditioned for the band director and the lead like flute girl, and they were like, oh my God, you're amazing. Like technique wise, of course, my sound was great, and they don't focus as much on technique because they're more into performance. So for me, I'm like, yeah, I can play anything you put in front of me. And then my mom was like, yeah, you're not going to that school. Like, how are you going to get there? We live in Missouri. Like, just forget about it. So
you're like, I want to march, Mom.
Yeah. And that was another thing. Like, the quality of the sound when I got to college, it was so horrible. I'm like, do y'all hear this? Like,
wow. Yeah.
You know, my ear was just different for something else. So anyway.
Interesting.
So what did you study at Alabama?
It was broadcast journalism.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So, and then when I went to Avila, it was corporate communications. So I kind of,
you mixed those two for what you're doing now.
Well, actually, I left a part out. So I did go to Park University, and I thought I wanted to major in computer science.
Nice.
But then I had to take calculus. I was like, yeah, let me go back to what I'm good at. Like, I looked at the little, they plan out your classes, and I'm like, I'm going to have to take these math classes. Yeah, like, no, thank you. So, ultimately, though, I finished in corporate communications. So
that's cool. And then so when you got out of college, you're still in Kansas City. Did you ever move? You stayed in Kansas City and started your business, or what happened after that?
Okay, so I went to Alabama State for a year, and then I moved back. And then I've been in Kansas City. Gosh, I moved to Dallas. Ooh. So where are we going with this? Do you want to just know how
I just want to know how you got to where you're at right now.
Okay, so in 2011, I was in college, and I saw a friend from high school, and I don't know how we got on a conversation about PR and communications, and he's like, hey, you should meet my mentor. She's Kevin Hart's publicist. Ooh. And so I'm like, all right then, you know, that sounds cool. And so I had a conversation with her, and she kind of just asked me, like, why was I interested? I'm like, well, I'm probably not going to be on TV or radio, so I'm just figuring out something else to do in communications. And so she threw me like this little, I didn't know it was a fake assignment. Like,
oh, yeah.
I have a client who has this going on, like, write something up for me. So I'm like, oh, okay. And it was a test to really just look at my skills. And then she was like, okay, do you want to intern for me? So I'm like, cool. So that went into like the beginning of 2012. And so I'd done a lot of just like freelance intern work for her up until 2015, 14.
Nice.
What does that entail? What does that entail? What is that process? Did you work remotely? Or were you there?
So it was just all remote. Like, she would just email me stuff. We'll have phone calls. I went to, because she's in Los Angeles, if I didn't say that. I went to Los Angeles once, and we met. It was for the NAACP Image Awards. Mm-hmm. And so that whole week, I kind of was just like behind the scenes, seeing all the award show stuff. And I went with the guy who had introduced me to her. So we met then, but I wasn't able to really travel back and forth a lot then. So I didn't get to like dig into the real, like PR world and see the red carpets and flashy lights and all that stuff.
That's pretty cool. Cause like I wouldn't have even thought that would be an option to work as an intern for someone that lives on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Just work remotely or like how to even go about doing that. So
I've heard about it more now, like in this present time, than back then. And I thought it was so long ago, but I mean, it was a long time ago, 2012.
Some years.
Yeah. So it was definitely interesting. And it took some discipline though too, because you're like getting these emails and you got your phone, but then it was like Twitter and Facebook. So, you're like balancing out, okay, I have to really sit down and write this press release, or we have a new client, like I have to really write their bio. And even though I'm not there, I still have deadlines. So yeah, it was like fun, but it was like I was really at work.
That's got to be some invaluable experience. I would have, just for the people out there, that's now a route that you can think about. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can get some internships that are not even in the same city as you and get really valuable experience. So what was your first impression when you started like in that zone, in that realm of PR? Were you like, this is dope, or was there anything that surprised you?
I was not as good of a writer as I thought I was. That is what surprised me. I felt like I could write anything forwards and backwards. Like, I can write that. It's nothing. And she would rip everything apart that I sent to her.
All that red pen?
Yeah. And so it was always like, no, rewrite this. Read this out loud and tell me what you think. And then I'll read it out loud. I'm like, oh, okay. And so it was just like a lot of things to where it kind of knocked out my confidence but rebuilt it, which was, I think, the best part of the process, because I'm still writing, but I'm learning how to use my words different. And you're speaking to a different audience. Like when you're talking to journalists and editors and things, it's not like you're writing a paper for your professor or, writing a note to your friend. It's really more detailed. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was the best part of just like relearning what I already
learning the nuance of that specific form. I don't know. I like to think I'm a good writer, and I don't think I'm as good as I think I might be.
Yeah.
I think I have good ideas, but translating them onto the written page. And I think that just has to do with practice, right? Like
I was going to say that.
Over
I really think so, because it was like a spell where I wasn't writing anything. And then when I start back writing, I was like, this is not good. Like, I knew it when I wrote it. I was like, maybe I should try to rephrase this. And so it's like just that repetition and writing and writing and writing. You learn new words or just how to rephrase different things that you wouldn't if you just didn't write it all. So
would that be your advice for anybody that's looking to go into PR or like going into a communications field? Like, get your writing down.
Yes. Start a blog.
I
would say, and that's actually one thing I probably should do, and I've put it off for like 5 years. I'm like, I need to just have something where I can always write, even if it's informal. It doesn't have to be anything, that's going to the New York Times, but just like some type of content, because it's like anything, if you want to be good at it, you have to practice.
Absolutely. Well, and then also, I was at a conference a few days ago, and kind of one of the last pieces of advice that any of the speakers gave was because there was like high school kids there and college age kids, is to like really hone in your writing skills, because that's another thing that she had said. I've heard this, a couple of times in the past few days is that you are probably in need of some practice. You may think you're not, but you probably are. Yes. So we'll get more into this after this break. You're here with the Realennials. Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to the show. We're the Realennials. You're tuned in. I'm Pat.
I'm Ruby.
And we're still here with Christina. Thank you again for joining us
Woo!
today.
Hey.
So you touched base a little bit about like your background and stuff like that. What do you have going on nowadays? I mean, you seem very busy and very important. So what's going on? What's your day-to-day look like?
Well,
Busy
thank
and
you. I like those words.
And so we're very thankful, first of all, that you agreed to come here.
No, this is really great. This was actually one of my goals for 2019 was to really connect with a lot more people and to be on like podcasts or panels and anything. So
doing it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Right now, goodness, I'm kind of all over the place, I think. The main thing that I'm really focusing on is building my brand. So District 88 is my PR agency. I've done freelance, like I said, since like 2014.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, I really want to lock in some clients and start building those relationships and having valuable relationships that don't just benefit me, but potential clients as well. So the main thing is really just getting out there, putting my face out there. I know a lot of people. I have a lot of connections, and it's like, I should probably start using those and making something happen instead of just doing it casually. I feel like to be successful, consistency is everything.
Yes.
So that's kind of what I've been pushing.
Yeah, that's kind of where we were at. I mean, I felt, in particular, Ruby. I mean, Ruby has done tons and tons of like, put in tons and tons of hours of networking and like meeting new people and like really set us up to like have something like this going on. Mm-hmm. And I think people discount the value of that, like just putting yourself out there in terms of like it being necessary to really build what you're doing, because everyone thinks about the like the numbers or the capital or whatever else, and it's just how much time you have to put into networking and like meeting people and making things happen. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's a quote in the PR community that a publicist is only as good as their media list, or as strong as their media list. And so I think about that, I'm like, oh, I guess I'm pretty weak right now.
What's a media list? It's just like the media sources that you're like connected to, tuned into?
Yeah, so any contacts in media outlets, whether it's TV, film, radio, podcasts, bloggers, the whole nine. So when you look at that and you have a list and you're figuring out something for a client or for yourself, it's like, who can I call? What can I do? And then if you can't call anybody, you can't do anything. So that's basically the whole part of being a publicist, is having those contacts available. And that's where I'm at now. So if anybody out there has any contacts, send them my way. But
send them her way.
So just any avenues, like I said, for myself or for potential clients.
So I have a question about how you like actually got started with District 88. So when you were interning, did you just naturally think I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to start my own thing? Or did you want to create your own path, or did you try to go work at like a PR agency, or that was never for you? There's so many questions.
I know, right? Like, let's see. Initially, I want to say I just felt like I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always had more of an entrepreneur mindset, not corporate. Like, I've never really saw myself working in corporate America, which is crazy because I work in corporate America. Same. And I'm like, how did I get here? So as I started learning and, you know, my mentor, you know, really started teaching me things, I felt like it was so I could go and work for myself, not to go work for anybody else. Nice. And not to discredit like a PR agency, because I mean, there's like really big agencies that own a lot of like amazing brands and people, but it was just a world where I felt like I want to do this on my own. And then also in Kansas City, I didn't know anybody who done PR, and so it kind of opened up a new eye for me to be like, well, I can have a PR agency, you know, for like my community or for people that I know, because so many people didn't even know what public relations was or what a publicist done. So I felt like, well, that's going to be my lane, and I'm just going to, you know, have that PR agency in Kansas City that everybody knows what it is and what we do.
It's so interesting, the concept of like just creating an opportunity for yourself. I feel like that Ruby and I were talking yesterday, and I feel like that's what we've done here. It's like a year ago, I had zero video production industry experience, you know, and it's like I could never have gotten a job in that industry because I didn't go to school for it, and before last year I had never even stepped foot on a production. Yeah. And so like I wanted to do video production for a living, so I feel like we literally had to create this opportunity ourselves and create this production ourselves, and now we did it. Like, we've done it. We're the directors of it and producers of it, and it's like there's the proof is there. We've done it. It's on our resume. We created that ourselves, and it's a profound, I think, experience. But it's just I don't know if it's like the day and age, like the technology or what, that I guess it makes it easier. But the concept of doing that before, especially I think coming from like a minority, poor, growing up experience, it was just never a concept that even like came to my brain until later on in life. Yeah, I think it was like for me, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and so my aunt and uncle owned a store in Kansas, and so like I used to work in there with them as a little girl, and like my dad took it over. And so as I got older and I started to just like see how people were living and doing things, and I felt like most of them were creatives and entrepreneurs, and like nobody ever told me that I couldn't do it. And so I'm like, well, I can do it then. But I did meet one lady, and she was one of the first people I met in Kansas City that had a PR agency, and she told me not to start my own, and that made me want to start my own. Nice. Like, and it was so crazy because I called her and somebody was like, oh, you should connect with her, she's like done this for 20 years. In our conversation, she's like, no, you shouldn't start your own agency. And I'm like, I shouldn't? I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to do this, you know. Did you say why?
I don't even remember. You know what? The conversation was so short, and that's the only thing that I remember from that conversation. Like, that's the only thing I remember her saying to me. Yeah, and it was discouraging to think, like, someone who looks like me, you know, who has done this for 20 years in Kansas City, you would think they'll be more of an advocate or, like, a mentor, just offer, like, well, before you start your own agency, you know, like, what do you know? Or, you know, just kind of ask those questions instead of just being like don't do it, you know. So thank you for that, because it definitely kind of gave me that drive to be like.
That's a weird thing too, because it's like, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
But like when you're doing something and like you know that it's the right thing, you know, but then you have people telling you like,
you should do it a different way.
Like you should do it a different way, or like I don't know about that. And it's like what we're doing, for example, like hadn't been done, I don't think, like the way we're doing it per se. And so it's interesting to hear people be like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, yeah, you literally don't know about that because it hasn't been done. We don't know about it either, but like we have.
Well, you can make it your own though.
Right.
You know, and I think that's the thing, like back to your point about working for an agency. And even now I have looked at, you know, job postings and job descriptions, and they're all like, no, that doesn't fit like what I see or what I want to do. And even though, you know, it's the same goal in PR and working, it's just like on paper that's not what I see, you know? So it's like, I want to create my own lane. Like, I want to do this how I want to. And I think for a long time, I tried to go like the traditional way and do like what I saw other people doing. Like, oh, I'm going to do this and that and that. And it didn't work for me. And so that's why I go back to say, like, now it's more of starting with the relationships and building those connections and foundations. Because I was more or less taught to get clients and then build relationships, and that just seemed counterproductive. Like, it doesn't seem genuine, you know? It's kind of like, I just want to be your friend so you can help me later on.
Ooh, dang. Okay.
So now I was like, I want you to be my friend so then you can help me later on. And it's more organic, you know? It can just happen, like, you know, hey Ruby, hey Pat, I got this client, you should have them on, instead of I have this client, hey Ruby, hey Pat, you know? So it's a lot of ways that I'm just like, I'm gonna figure out how to make this work for me.
And part of that, Ruby's philosophy, and mine too, like generally as a friend, is like, for the most part, I would say that like we're very like service oriented. So like we're very like you're awesome. Like, what can we do for you? You know, and then like we try to help people on their projects and different things all the time. You know,
at least just with support, you know, you just go support somebody's event or go like check in on how they're doing or ask them like, hey, I saw your new thing. I liked it. I shared it with somebody. Even just that is really meaningful, especially with young creatives, young entrepreneurs of color that need that support, because, you know, a lot of times we're being told, hey, you're doing it wrong, or hey, you should do it this other traditional route. And I think what we've all done here is we've said, hey, there's a different route, and there's a path that hasn't been taken yet, and we're putting in that work. And I can only speak for myself on this, I guess maybe for Pat, but we do this so that other people can see that there's a different way of doing things. That, you know, the kids that are in high school right now, the kids that are in college right now, just know that that's an option. They don't have to do the traditional, you know, go to corporate America, get a job, get a house, buy a big screen TV, like all that stuff. You can do it a different way, however you want to do it. You have a big screen TV.
Yeah, I think like, and I think that was another thing that was interesting with getting into the PR industry, was that most people want to be in front of the camera. Most people, you know, want to be the face, the star, that person, but it's so much that goes on behind the scenes. And then you look at, well, why are they on the cover of that magazine? Why are they on Ellen or Oprah, you know? And so it's like, it's somebody putting them on there. Like, it's somebody actually doing the work to build their brand, to get their face in front of all of these people. And so to me, that was kind of the fun part. Like, I'm the reason why you're on TV, you know? And then not in like a cocky kind of way, but it's really the work that puts into it, and it's not easy. And you get told no a lot more but those winning moments, like I've had a client like on the cover of Inc. magazine, when I've actually 2 clients in the past. So like those moments of like seeing that, and you kind of know what it took to like put into it, or those interviews, and you're like, oh my gosh, my press release got them on there, you know? So it's like a lot of winning moments. And so I really would like to tell people, like, look at other paths maybe behind the scenes. Like, if you don't get to get in front of the camera, if you can't be on the radio, you can't be on TV, there's still ways to be involved, you know, to be able to do like what you love. Like, I still get to talk to people, I still get to write. I'm just not like every day on your radio. So
it might even be better. I mean, really, like, because you get to be connected to the industry, but like you don't have to deal with the other part of like being on camera, or like dealing with the criticism, and the lens is literally on you, you know, and people are like, oh, his beard's stupid or whatever, or he looks like a dead raccoon because he doesn't sleep, or whatever.
Well, you know, that's women.
Nobody said that. Pat said that about himself. I have not heard anybody say that here.
But you know what, though? That's a good point, because like as women, you know, it's like our weight fluctuate. Our hair might not look good. Our makeup may be bad. Our lashes aren't done. Like, it's so many things, and it's like, I can't be on TV today. I can't get my nails done until Thursday. And so now it's kind of like, well, my nails look a mess, but nobody's going to see me. So
I had to make peace with that a long time ago. I was like, you know what? I just have to do it. I'll get a hair person later. We'll be fine.
But yeah, there's definitely jobs in the background, and yeah, that's something that like I hadn't really thought about until really recently, when like I said last year, when we started doing pre-production on a project that we were working on, and then just learning like the importance of all of that and how that like affects the final product. And like you probably go into a promotional campaign or something like probably with as much planning, if not, or than what we do on a pre-production for something that we're working on. And like that's something I didn't even think about really until you just said that. So.
It's a lot of different components with it, and most people, they're like, oh, you're a publicist, cool, or I want to be on Vogue, or like I want to be on the news, like call Oprah. And it's like
you're like, okay, I got her on speed dial.
Yeah, it's like it's levels to this, and like let's start with the
KCPT.
Yeah, like who local. Are you? Why would Oprah want to have you on her show? So it's definitely things that people don't think about, where it's like our job isn't easy, because creatively you do have to come out with like a whole plan and different tactics of how to make things work, and it involves a lot of different people. So it's not just like picking up the phone, hey, I got this person, People magazine, put them on the cover. It's like, yeah, one day. Like
that takes a while.
Yeah, we'll get there one day.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for being here. You tuned into the Realennials. I'm Pat.
I'm Ruby.
We're still here with Christina, and we'll be right back after the break.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I'm Ruby.
I'm Pat.
And you're joined by the Realennials. We're still here with Christina Browne. She is a publicist, PR. What is your official title besides owner and awesome chick?
Thank you. Publicist. Yeah, or PR professional.
There we go.
I'm not a PR. Most people are like, "Oh, you a PR?" Like, I don't know what that is. No, like I'm not a
don't
PR.
Come at her like that, okay?
That is the industry I work in, public relations. It doesn't mean Puerto Rico or anything else. So, yeah, I just go by publicist, primarily.
So, okay, I want to ask what exactly, because I mean we've been talking about the industry, but what exactly do you do on a daily basis, and like what type of clients do you personally work with or want to be working with?
You know what? My preference has changed, I would say, now that I live in Kansas City. Yeah. So, of course, I started out in entertainment. So, you think of like Hollywood and movies and actors and everything, which was great. But being that right now Kansas City isn't really big on entertainment, it's like a lot more like small businesses, or there's a lot of people who work in the entertainment industry that's from here but don't live here. Ooh, so okay. I've like started working with people like that, or just like influential people in the city that have done things over the years, and it's like, well, let's bring some recognition to that. Like how can we really let people know what you have done and kind of get that out there. So I don't want to just be industry focused right now. It's kind of just like if it's a good fit, a good match, and I really feel like I can, help you in a way, then that's kind of.
Do you take into account your personal branding when you're taking on a client, or whoever has the most money?
Like, oh, can you pay me? I mean, yeah, I don't want to do anything, like I said, that doesn't feel good, and I don't want to do it just for money. I feel like, when you are passionate about something, like the money will come. So if a client can pay me, $5,000 a month, which would be great. Hey, if you have a budget.
Her contact links in the description.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't care about what you do, or I don't really see a vision in it. I don't want the money. It's not really worth it. And it could be somebody with a smaller budget who is really working, really doing things, and it's like you know, like, let's do something with this. Like, I can work. I don't feel like I'm at that point in my career yet to be like, oh, well, if you can't pay me $5,000 a month, I'm not even talking to you. And I know a lot of publicists that are like that, but rightfully so. Like, they have the receipts to be like, and hopefully, you know, one day I could get there. But now it's kind of just like, I just want to believe in you. Like, if I don't feel something when I talk to you, when I'm working with you, or look at what you're doing, I go to your social media and I'm like, what is this? You know, it's like, no, I don't want to do it. So yeah, I feel like whoever I work with is gonna be connected to my brand, you know, personally and professionally.
I agree with that mindset, as far as like, you do have to align with the people that you're working with. Because I mean, people have money, right? They're gonna want your services, but if you don't align with their vision, if you don't align with what they're doing, who they are, then why are you working with them? Why are you giving that energy to them? So I believe that, and that's kind of something that we've also been talking about. Like, we'll take on client work, but when we do take on client work, we want to make sure that we're getting something out of it. We're not just doing it just solely to get some money. Right. It's also like, okay, we want to help them. We want, you know, to give our energy to that sort of situation.
And I mean, so, you know, when I am talking to potential clients, you know, you always ask, like, well, do you have a budget? Because you don't want to just be like nickel and dime for all the work you have to do, because again, it's so much that goes into it. And a big part of it primarily is like the pitching part. It's like finding those media outlets and having a story to tell. You know, like publicists and anybody in the PR profession, we're storytellers. So if you aren't doing anything, then how can I tell a story? But then if you are doing something, I have to find different ways to tell that story, to make it believable, to really brand you. And that's like the hardest part, is getting somebody to believe in what you're doing. Like, yeah, you're my client, I believe in you, but you know, the person at New York Times or whatever, you know, this publication is, I'm like, no, next, you know. And so it's like, that takes a lot of work and patience. And so you can't be like, I have $100, like, let's get me all over everywhere. And I can't do anything with $100, you know.
What are some of the metrics like that are used in by a publicist? So, for example, and I have zero ideas, so correct me. Is it something like you're able to look at like your historical stuff? I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. So a client would come to you and they have a certain budget. Like, how does that budget translate into like more profitability for them? Like, how do you,
like, how do they get a return on their investment
to get a return on their investment in you?
Well, I think it's, again, just the creative process of it all. So collectively we'll come up with different strategies to use. Like, what are your goals? Like, what are you trying to do? Realistically, not
ideally.
Like, not what you feel, but what's like really more of an attainable goal. And, you know, whether we're doing a 6-month campaign or a 12-month campaign, it's really building on that and finding different ways. And so even with celebrities that have known names and brands, their PR campaign can take a year before anything happens. Wow. So when you talk about return on investments, that's one thing that people don't understand, is that it takes time. So you could pay all this money every single month and you may not be getting anything. And that's just the reality of the profession. But it could be that one story that picks up and takes off, you know, or it could be that one media outlet that, you know, a blog may post it and then a big outlet will see it and run with it, and now, you know, it's everywhere. But it took 10, 11, 12 months. And so that's kind of where your return comes in, you know what I'm saying, as far as your investment. And then sometimes it could take longer. It's really just, again, trial and error in a professional type of way. It's like you're not throwing your money away, but it's a real investment into what it is you're trying to do. And that's why I tell people, like, you really have to be doing something, because it takes time. And if you're not working, if you're not constantly like putting stuff out there, there's nothing I can help you with, because what you done yesterday is already old. It's like, I can't sell what you done last month or last year. Like, nobody's gonna care about that. And especially now we live in a microwave society where everything is immediate. You know, it's posted on the blogs. You got the shade room, you got this, you know. And so it's like, that story's old news. We're on to something else.
Right.
So yeah, it's like you got to keep working if you want me to keep working, and that's where your investment will come from.
Yeah, I was just curious how that worked out. I didn't know if like for you in particular, if you track that, like I had this type of success with this client after we released this press release that I did, like the revenue went up by this percentage or whatever in that quarter right after that, or something like if you track those kind of metrics.
I don't so much track like the revenue part of it, like if they made money from it, but if I'm working on something and let's say we had a goal, you know, in a 3-month period. And it's like, well, these were our goals. We're going to check off what we actually did accomplish and revisit what we didn't. And in that way, we can figure out how to do it differently. Or is it something that we just need to forget about altogether and come up with a different way? And then when you do reflect back on it, it's like, wow, we done this, we done that, you know, we done that. And if it helped them increase their revenue or if it helped them generate, you know, more business or followers or whatever, then that's just like an added bonus.
Awesome.
So who would want to get a publicist, or who would want to, you know, get a PR firm? Who are those people? I know you're like talking about the clients that you want to work with, but is it like should musicians, if you're a musician, you'd be out there? If you're like going to be on YouTube, like movie publicists?
You know what?
Who needs them?
Yeah, who needs them?
That's such a funny question because everybody thinks they need a publicist, but you don't need one. I feel like
I'm like, I don't need one.
I'm really laughing because that is like a question that is, that is
common question.
Yes, but
people need to know, Christina.
I would say like if the media is coming to you, if you got to a point where like people are contacting you for interviews, or people are like, hey, you know, what is this you're doing, and you're really getting that attention, that's when you need a publicist. Okay. If you have like,
we got a couple of DMs. Are we ready?
I mean, I feel like so much stuff in the beginning you can do on your own without hiring a publicist, you know, and like a lot of seasoned PR professionals will tell you like, oh, if they don't even have 10,000 followers, I don't want to talk to them. Or if they don't have 20,000 followers, I don't want to talk to them. And so I would say you do need to have a following. And again, you need to be working. Like, what are you actually doing? Who's trying to contact you? Because otherwise you're paying a PR professional to do something and you don't have much for them to work with. Right. So I feel like it could be somebody who immediately takes off and goes viral, and then they have a ton of press coming their way, where you're like, okay, I can work with you for now. But if you're like an artist and, you know, you have a couple of thousand followers and EP that just came out, like, you don't need a publicist for that, you know? It's like, not yet. Keep working.
No,
so what about that person that is like in that space where like, okay, eventually they're gonna probably need a publicist, but right now they're not at that point where they can maybe like, you know, pay for it, or they have enough work for a publicist to do. What can they be doing to get themselves to that point where they like need to call you? Like, is it building up their social media? Making contacts?
Just building their brand, like really doing the work. And it's such a basic thing to say. It's really simple, but it's like, keep working, you know, keep putting content out there, keep writing songs, keep doing shows, and your followers will come, and then the press will come. And then at that point, you may need a publicist to kind of help you be a little bit more strategic with what it is you're doing. But, you know, it's like, you got to have more than one song on YouTube and one video and think like, okay, this one song, let's get it out there. No, you know, not, and it's not it's not to discredit the work that anybody is doing, but literally it's like, I can't do anything with it. And that's with any PR professional, not just for myself. Like, you really have to have the work behind you to make yourself, not as a publicist, look credible, but your client look credible as well. Right. And like I say, if it's something short term that takes off and it's viral, then great, and you can run with that and see where it goes. But nowadays, like, how often does something go viral? And if it does, it's like for the moment, and then it's over with. So
yeah, I can see that, and I'm surely it'd probably be more fulfilling for you to work with someone that has like put in that work rather than someone that just randomly had a viral video. You know, because that's probably indicative of their work ethic and like your willingness to work with them and things like that. Yeah. Awesome.
I Okay, so you're saying we don't need publicists.
No.
That's what I got from that. But the people that do need to call Christina.
Yeah,
she's in Kansas City and she's popping.
And I think right now, I've met a lot of people actually like over the last month who are like, hey, we should talk, or I might need a publicist. But then to me, I really feel like, can I give you anything right now as well? As I mentioned earlier, like I'm really wanting to build those relationships and build more connections. And ultimately, my goal is to really be a connector and not just for my clients, but in my industry, and being that I'm a minority business owner in Kansas City, and there's a lot of minorities doing great things. Yes. I really want to be able to connect those people to work together. Awesome. So not PR in just a client sense, but just like a community sense as well, to be that go-to person or company where it's like, oh, contact Christina. She may be able to, link you with this person or that person and kind of put it all together. So it's like, I don't want to just take on all these clients and then I'm like twiddling my thumbs because I don't really know what to do with you yet. So it's like picking and choosing like who I could really invest in.
Well, I think what the distinction that you're trying to make or that you're making, I should say, is a distinction for the need for having like a marketing strategy in the beginning, because that should already be built out and like functioning, and then you can come in and help further that along. Right. You're not per se the marketing specialist. It's going to help you develop your brand at the beginning.
Exactly.
Like you need to have that established essentially.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
So if you're not there yet and you think you need a publicist, get a marketing strategist, develop that brand, and then I
feel like PR is not the last part of what you need, but like the last part that just takes it off, because everything else before it really needs to be built up. So it's like when you step on the gas, the publicist can kind of go and not keep braking because you're still
trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's like you already are rolling. You need somebody to push this machine on through, the pipelines.
That's great.
So for the people that do want to get in contact with you, where can they find you?
You can follow me on Instagram. My name is Being Christina, so Being Christina. Should I spell that too?
Yeah.
CH. So Being Christina, BeingChristina. Twitter. I'm kind of active on Twitter, but people still use Twitter.
I don't.
We're debating about this still.
I don't know, but it's Browne Chris. It's BROWNE and CHRISS. But
links in the description.
Yeah, so that's where you can connect with me at. I'm kind of just here, there, everywhere.
You're probably still at an event around town.
Yeah,
come say hi to her if you see her.
Please speak to me. Yeah. I've really been out. I've seen you all a few times in just the last month. So yeah, I'm really just finding people, and I hope people find me.
Well, keep up the good work. It sounds like you're right where you need to be, and you're killing it. So
I'm trying.
It's exciting.
It is. I was gonna say it's a process. It's like highs and lows, and some days I'm like, what am I doing? And other days I'm like, woohoo,
Same.
So it's like I'm enjoying the process right now.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time and coming early on a Saturday morning to come and speak with us. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We're the Realennials. I'm Pat.
I'm Ruby.
And thanks again to Christina. So we will see you next time.
Bye, fam.
How you feeling? Are we rolling? My brother wed you in kindergarten night. I heard that you missed your connecting flight to the Blue Ridge Mountains over near Tennessee. You're ever welcome with me anytime you like. Let's drive to the countryside, leave behind some green-eyed lookalikes, so no one gets worried, no. so no one gets worried. No. But Sean, don't get careless. I'm sure it'll be fine. I love you, oh brother of mine. In the quivering forest where the shivering dogs rest, our good grandfather built a wooden nest, and the river got frozen, and our house got snowed in, and the yellow moon glowed bright till the morning light. Terrible am I, child, even if you don't mind. In the quivering forest where the shivering dogs rest, our good grandfather built a wooden nest, and the river got snowed in, and our house got frozen, and the yellow moon glowed bright till the morning light. Terrible am I, child, even if you don't mind. No, no.